I don't hate my job. It pays well enough, the people are decent, and most days the work is manageable. But there are times, especially when a big project is due, when it becomes overwhelming. Deadlines creep up faster than I expect, and before I know it, I'm the last one in the office, racing against the clock. That's exactly how I found myself working late that night. It was already past 6 when I glanced at the time, stretching my arms over my head as I heard the familiar sound of my coworkers packing up for the evening. Drawers closing, computer screens flickering off, muffled goodbyes echoing through the aisles of the cubicles. A few of them passed my desk, offering sympathetic nods. I forced a half-hearted chuckle, but my eyes drifted back to the stack of papers in front of me. A daunting pile of spreadsheets, reports, and presentation notes I still had to finalize. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., I had to present this project to my boss, and there was no way I was going to be unprepared. I sighed, rubbing the bridge of my nose. The past few weeks had been brutal, with long hours eating into my nights. My body was exhausted, my mind sluggish, but I had no choice. I had to get this done. By the time the last of my coworkers had left, the office had grown eerily quiet. The hum of the overhead fluorescent lights was the only sound accompanying the soft tapping of my keyboard. The occasional creak of my chair echoed too loudly in the empty room. I tried to focus, tried to push through the fatigue, but after a few hours, my eyelids felt impossibly heavy. I needed coffee. With a groggy sigh, I pushed back from my desk and made my way to the break room. The hallway leading there felt different that night. Longer, darker, emptier. The usual buzz of conversations and printers spitting out reports was gone, leaving only my footsteps clicking against the tile. The break room was dimly lit, the vending machines humming softly in the corner. I fumbled with the coffee maker, pouring a generous amount of grounds into the filter. The rich, bitter scent filled the air as the machine gurgled to life. I leaned against the counter, rubbing my eyes while I waited. A few minutes later, I poured the steaming liquid into a chipped office mug, the heat warming my hands as I took a cautious sip. It was strong, almost too strong, but I needed it. Back at my desk, I took a deep breath, ready to push through the final stretch. The caffeine helped, but only for so long. Maybe an hour passed before the drowsiness started creeping back in, like a thick fog settling over my mind. I tried everything to fight it. I stretched, stood up, even walked a slow lap around the empty office. None of it worked. My head felt heavy, my vision blurred at the edges. The words on my screen stopped making sense. Maybe, just a few seconds. I told myself that if I could close my eyes just for a moment, just rest my head on the desk, I'd feel better. A short break, nothing more. As my head lowered, the cool surface of the desk felt strangely comfortable. My breathing slowed, my mind drifted, and then everything went dark. I jolted awake with a sharp inhale, my heart hammering in my chest. My breath was unsteady, and for a second, I wasn't even sure where I was. The dim glow of my computer monitor cast a soft light across my desk, the only real source of illumination in an otherwise darkened office. How long had I been asleep? Everything was still silent, eerily so. I had only meant to close my eyes for a few seconds, maybe a few minutes at most. I stretched my arms, rubbing my face as I stood up. I needed another coffee, something to shake this groggy, uneasy feeling that clung to me. And that's when I noticed it. Something was different. My cubicle, my entire workspace, was the only one left in the room. The desk, the partitions, the scattered office supplies, everything that had been there was now gone. I stood frozen, my mind scrambling to make sense of what I was seeing. What was going on? I took a step back, my eyes darting around the room. The layout, it wasn't right. The walls felt closer, the ceiling somehow lower, and the windows. I turned towards them, expecting to see the faint glow of streetlights outside. But there was nothing. No glass, no blinds, no faint reflections of the city beyond. The windows were gone. No, they weren't gone. They had been walled over. Thick, seamless walls now stood where they had once been, as if the windows had never existed in the first place. My breath hitched, and for the first time, I felt a true, creepy dread crawl up my spine. I swallowed hard, trying to rationalize what I was seeing. Maybe it was a prank, some ridiculous, elaborate joke my coworkers had set up while I was sleeping. But that didn't make sense. This wasn't a simple rearrangement of furniture. This was something else. My stomach twisted as I stepped away from my desk. I turned towards the hallway leading to the break room, desperate for something normal. But the hallway wasn't normal. It was supposed to be no more than 20 or 30 feet long, a short stretch that led past a few other offices before ending at the break room. But now it stretched on forever. The lights above flickered slightly, casting long shadows against an impossible distance. The end of the hallway was nowhere in sight. Doors lined the walls on either side, far more than had ever been there before. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. I felt a dry lump in my throat as I called out. Nothing, no response, no echo. My voice just disappeared, swallowed by the empty, stretching corridor. My pulse quickened, panic creeping in as I turned away from the hallway and scanned what remained of my office space. I spotted a door, the one that should have led to my boss's office. Maybe he was still here. Maybe he could explain what the hell was happening. I rushed to the door, gripping the handle with clammy fingers before swinging it open. I froze. This wasn't an office. The space beyond was endless. A maze of walls and corridors stretched before me, bathed in a sickly yellow light that hummed with an almost mechanical drone. The floor was covered in thin patterned carpet that looked worn, aged, like it existed long before I ever stepped into this building. It went on forever. I stood there, my breath shallow, my body screaming at me to turn back. But then, behind me, a sound. I spun around, my heart hammering as I looked towards the long hallway. Something was there. I couldn't see it, but I could hear it. Movement, soft and deliberate, growing closer. I took a step forward, squinting into the dimness, hoping, praying it was just another coworker, someone who had stayed late like me. But I saw nothing, no one. Then, the lights at the far end of the hallway flickered and went out. One by one, they shut off in sequence, the darkness creeping closer, swallowing the corridor piece by piece. And that's when I saw it. A shape. A figure standing in the encroaching blackness. But it wasn't human. A low guttural cry echoed through the space, something primal, something wrong. The sound of it clawed at my brain, triggering every deep instinctual fear inside of me. I stepped back, then another cry, closer this time. Panic surged through me. I had to run. I didn't know where. I didn't know what this thing was. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I could not let it reach me. The only path left was through the door, into the maze. Without hesitation, I turned and sprinted through, slamming the door shut behind me. I stumbled forward, gasping for breath, my hands trembling as I braced myself against a desk, trying to steady my thoughts. I had no idea where I was. The space around me looked like my office, but it wasn't. The rows of cubicles were gone. Instead, there were scattered desks, each with a chair, arranged haphazardly throughout the room. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, casting a dim, sickly glow over the area. There were papers on some of the desks, but they were blank, just stacks of crisp white sheets that looked untouched. My breathing was unsteady as I scanned the room. At the far end, I spotted another door. I didn't hesitate. I hurried towards it, my footsteps echoing eerily in the empty space. The door opened into a hallway, lined with more doors. I moved cautiously, checking behind me every few seconds, expecting to see that thing from the darkness pursuing me. But for now, I seemed alone. I opened the first door on my left, an office, empty. The next one, another office, identical. Every room I checked was the same. Blank desks, chairs, old filing cabinets with no labels, computers that looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. Then I saw it. One of the offices had a computer that was on. It was an older model. The keyboard was thick and yellowed with age, and the mouse was the kind with a rolling ball underneath. The strangest part is that it had power. I moved closer, my breath hitching as I realized there were no cables connected to it. No power cord, no wires. It was just running. I hesitated for a moment, Before gripping the mouse, the smooth plastic feeling alien under my fingers, I clicked around the desktop. Nothing but a blank screen. Except for one file. In the corner of the screen was an icon labeled Exit. Relief flooded through me. I clicked it. The screen flickered, and an image opened. I stared at it in confusion. A red ball. It sat on the wet concrete of what looked like a water park. In the background, I could make out a bright yellow slide curving over a pool. The water shimmered under the light. It was just a simple, innocent picture. But it meant nothing to me. What was this supposed to be? What did it mean? How was this an exit? And how was it supposed to help me get out of here? I only found more questions than answers. I clicked the file again, hoping that something else would happen. Nothing. Frustration surged through me, and I let out a shaky breath. Whatever this was, it wasn't an answer. I turned away from the screen, my heart pounding as I left the room. I wandered the halls, searching for anything that made sense. The walls were strange here. The paint was an odd off-white color, and the texture looked wrong, like it had been stretched too thin over something that wasn't drywall. Some of the doors were locked, others led to more of the same. Empty, lifeless offices. The air felt thick, stale. The lighting was worse now, flickering occasionally, casting long shifting shadows that made my stomach twist with unease. Then, a sound. My body locked up as a blood-curdling yell shattered the silence. It was the same horrific sound from earlier, only this time, it was close. I spun around, my pulse hammering in my ears. My eyes darted to every open office, searching for something, for anything. Then I saw it. At the far end of the hall. The thing. Even now, I don't know how to explain what I saw. It was tall, too tall. Its elongated limbs stretching unnaturally, like its body had been pulled and warped into something grotesque. Its skin was dark and featureless, shifting like a shadow that had been given form. Its head, or what should have been a head, was wrong. There was no face, only a hollow, gaping space where one should have been. And then it screamed. The sound was deafening, an inhuman wail that rattled in my chest like a shockwave. And then it moved. It lunged forward with impossible speed, and I ran. I tore down the hall, my feet pounding against the carpet as the walls blurred past me. The lights above flickered violently, as if they too were panicking. The thing behind me was fast, inhumanly fast, gaining on me with each horrible skittering movement. I turned a corner, another hallway, identical to the last, then another. I was lost in the labyrinth of this twisted, endless office. The sound of it was right behind me, its heavy, wet footsteps pounding against the floor, the air crackling with each guttural noise it let out. I turned another corner. Dead end. My stomach dropped. But then I noticed something. In the center of the room, a hole. A perfect circular hole in the floor, like an open mouth waiting to swallow me. I rushed to the edge, peering down. Bottomless. The darkness stretched forever, an abyss with no visible end. I turned back. The monster was coming. Its elongated limbs twisted unnaturally as it sprinted towards me, its faceless void somehow staring right at me. I had two choices: jump into the hole, into nothingness, or stay here and die. I knew I didn't have a choice. I took one last breath and jumped.